Ahoy, fellow eugenic warfarers.
Jesus, Kay, and welcome aboard the Joy of Trek! A General Order 1 breaking podcast exploring Kylie 279 and the Federation High Court of Star Trek. All of it. I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
And out in the USS Archer is your Chief Engineer, Greg.
Together, we're on a mission through the weapons labs of Star Trek to find the warp bomb in every Civil War. Jeebus, Kay! And the excellence in every episode.
Even the Saurian brandy.
It's probably excellent, because every episode must be someone's favorite, and it might as well be us.
So flex your Vulcan Nick Pinch fingers and join us as we parlay into
The Joy of Trek. Well done, Kay.
Thank you. We are doing episode 1, season 1 of
Strange New Worlds.
Yes,
titled
we are
Strange New Worlds.
Yes, this is the second episode to share its title with a series, following the Next Generation Lower Decks, Star Trek Lower Decks.
Oh, okay.
And this is the fifth Star Trek product to take their title from the opening narration of Star Trek, the original series. It just includes Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
Oh, yeah.
Enterprise, these are the voyages. Original series where no man has gone before, and the Next Generation where no one has gone before.
Ooh,
So, yes.
yeah. That's cool. That's really cool. It makes it confusing, though.
Yeah.
Like, what series are you going to want? Strange New Worlds. Which episode? Yeah.
Strange New Worlds, yeah.
I believe Strange New Worlds was also an episode of another series.
Okay.
Chief?
So I'm able to find Strange New World was a 1975 TV movie featuring John Saxon, who later went on to play Lieutenant Thompson, Nancy Thompson's father in Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Thank you. I had been looking forward to this so much when it first came out, Kay, because...
Yeah, you were a big Discovery fan.
Yes,
Yeah.
I still am. I'm really, really excited about the next and regrettably final seasons. But
They're putting out another season of Discovery.
it would have been out already, except I
For
think
the writer's strike.
writer's strike was one factor. I think the tail end of the COVID pandemic was a factor,
Okay.
and also like the decision that the series would conclude with season 5,
Right.
And some extra production time was
Season 5.
yes, season 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
That must be weird, like for actors, like to be like doing like shooting 2 different series of Star Trek, more or less consecutively.
Who are you talking about?
I mean, the actor who plays Pike, if they're in Discovery, or is he not?
Oh, he was only in season 2,
Oh, right.
and then departed to do. Well, technically, Strange New Worlds is a spin-off.
Yes.
But he was such a breakout character. The whole crew of the Enterprise at the time that was introduced were so beloved, and there was such hope among the fans that there would be a spin-off.
Yeah.
And sure there was, and we were not disappointed, were we?
No, it's a fantastic series. Yeah. I mean, I kind of petered out of Discovery, I think halfway season 2. But yeah, Strange New Worlds we've been watching all the way through. We just actually watched the season 2, episode 9 the other day, despite my other half being an avid musical hater.
The Subspace Rhapsody.
Yeah.
One of the few episodes to like get its own release poster. It's so great.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I like what they're doing. I mean, I love the crossover episode with Lower Decks.
It's like Strange New Worlds was made for us, for this show.
Right. Well, that's one of my first comments, actually. It has a very classic look. They're trying to go for, kind of re-envisioning the original series. Like, what the original series might have looked at if they had had a massive budget and 50 years of extra special effects technology.
I mean, you kind of like to imagine that's what it actually looked like, and we just couldn't see because we're watching on 1960s television.
Yes.
And now it's in 4K. We can actually see all the detail
Yes.
that appeared not to be there.
Very good.
All right, shall we eject the warp core?
Yes, let's.
I say we eject the warp core!
There's a few little things there that need a little bit of addressing. Okay, number 1. Why does he take the shuttle to fly up to the Enterprise only to beam out the last part? I mean, you might have just beamed up the entire way.
Oh, visual inspection of the exterior.
No, he didn't. They just did a flyover and flying over right to the area where the landing area for the shuttle is, and just before the shuttle lands on the Enterprise, he beams over.
I mean, valid. Okay, well, I am going to have to deal with that. I'm sorry, because there's two things. One of them, I can totally imagine that this is kind of like a vestigial ritual that is not necessary. You know, the commander of a craft doing a visual inspection of the entire exterior before boarding it and then doing interior, which is just no longer done, especially because it's coming out of space dock. Like, it's already understood. But there is a vestigial bit of ritual.
Right. Also, that's the first officer's job, not the captain's job.
Oh, well.
It used to be the oh, Christ, I don't know what the word in English, the boordwerktuigkundige, which is...
The chief engineer.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah, the chief engineer's job. And in airplanes, back in the days, and there was still a 3-man crew in the cockpit, then it was the chief engineer's job to do the visual inspection of the plane.
I've always liked the Dutch word, boordwerktuigkundige, the onboard equipment expert.
Yeah.
I would also say that we see this very directly with Star Trek Into Darkness, where Scotty is arguing over the fact that he's taking on the, I believe, 78 torpedoes that end up having the augments on board, cons people on board. So there already is that directly in there, that the chief engineer would be the one to be in charge of all the equipment, or just be aware of all the equipment. So yes, I would agree with this statement.
The second component is he is terrified of that ship.
Fair.
Right? We see that at the gorgeous flyby. He's staring out the window with trepidation, and he's any minute that he doesn't have to step aboard that ship.
So, which would have been longer if he didn't beam over, but like rode the shuttle out.
Well,
nice try, though.
I think okay. Continue with your list then.
All right. Okay. So, how on earth can a society reverse engineer a matter-antimatter device from observations through a telescope?
Okay, I had a similar question myself, but like, given the level of sort of technological ingenuity that people in general are capable of, the most important thing that you need to figure out is like, what kind of works? Because when you don't know whether a phenomenon is possible, you hypothesize about the fusion of atoms. Well, which ones can do it under which circumstances?
I'll give that.
And when somebody gives you a demo, like, hey, that explosion, there's an awful lot of, I don't know, molybdenum-235 in that explosion. That must be a core component of an engine.
Right.
Let's try some molybdenum-235. And then you skip a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah, okay, maybe. I mean, but I'm not sure. Like I didn't watch the episode of Discovery that they were referring to, so I'm not exactly sure what they saw.
But it's a space battle. It's a space battle with lots of warp-capable ships. Yeah. They're a Kelpian spacecraft.
Right, that I heard of, yes.
Klingons, humans. It's a very exciting episode. But yeah, there was a lot to observe. So you see energy weapons, particle weapons being used, lots of engine wash.
And I had another one, which actually figured out, like, this was like mentioned on the Goofs page from Memory Alpha, I think. Yeah. Why Nurse Chapel is able to make several crew members resemble the native residents of Kylie 279 by injecting with gene therapy, based on the genetic code of the planet's inhabitants, when they had not yet made any contact, and so they wouldn't have any access to the genes. But that's kind of like subverted in something that she actually says, like,
if I don't synthesize a booster with actual Kylie DNA, he may not pass a retinal scan.
No, I'm not going to accept that, because there has been a mission to Kylie already. Like, the USS Archer is in orbit. They would have done genetic sampling. I don't know, But
do they have that? I mean, they hadn't
been a pint of sewage water out.
They hadn't been on the...
gross as it is.
Also, another point, speaking of the Archer. Archer is a decent-sized ship, right?
Weirdly, yes.
Yeah.
Like, it looks
got
like
two warp nacelles, and it's not a shuttle.
No, it's just a dish and a warp nacelle,
Okay, but still, it's not a shuttle.
Yeah.
Why is there only 3 people on board?
Interesting. Interesting.
None of them engineers.
What happened to the rest? Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, maybe it is kind of a shuttle. Like, how many crew do you actually need? You know, the Enterprise is...
I mean, the shots suggest that she's a fairly decent-sized ship. Like, there's several orbital shots where we see both the Enterprise and the Archer.
Right, and you're meant to assume that the saucer section is about the same size.
Or at least, or maybe even half the size. But that would still make it a significantly sized ship.
Yeah.
Not a shuttle which held 3 people.
I'll accept that one. What is going on there?
Like, nobody was on board the Archer when the Enterprise arrived, but there was only 3 people who were rescued from the planet.
And they don't talk about, the massacre.
The rest of the crew, yeah. Anyway,
massive shore leave, I guess.
That's about it. What I had for the ejecting the warp core. So I guess we can jump into the episode.
Yes, we'll just skip mine because.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no.
I mean, you have one too. Wow, that's quite unusual.
And even more unusual is I'm withholding mine.
Oh.
because I know that I made a little joke earlier about how I was going to make Strange New Worlds into my con, because we can't just have pure joy. We have to have an unreasonable enemy that we just loathe.
Yeah.
And yes, for comedic effect, that's going to be Strange New Worlds, because they're too sexy and the scripts are too fun and it's all too smart and too beautiful.
Yeah.
But really, this is actually the first episode of Star Trek in a very long time that made me actually angry.
Oh?
Yeah.
At what?
Let's see when we get there.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't worry, this is not pessimistic for those at home. Like, I'm not going to be shitting on this show. I love Strange New World, and I love that there was a story that actually evoked such emotion in me. But it's not pure joy this time around.
All right. Well, let's see what we got. We open with a lovely shot of, I think, what...
Oh, I love everything about it.
Which
I know I just said that I was going to be against this episode, but oh my God, opening with an alien like NASA's Red Alert.
Right. Well, you don't really know that. That's like, I thought that was really well done in this shot. It's kind of like played for almost being like the suggestion that it is on Earth.
Yes.
But it's like someone walking through a corridor with red lights flashing because there's been an alert, a UFO has been spotted, and it's a shot of the back of a woman being tracked as she walks into a very much NORAD-style command center.
Yeah, all these embedded screens and control stations with sturdy frames.
And she turns around eventually, and we see that she is the alien.
First contact is just a dream. Until one day, it isn't.
What is that?
Her outfit is so cool.
Yeah.
It reads like a suit, except the lapels are sort of integrated into the epaulettes, and they've got like glowing panels. She's got a tie pin. She's got a cap that I don't know the term for.
In Dutch, it would be called een schij. Oh no, it's not. It's
it's not quite. It's got a little extra fold.
Yeah, it is.
It's a really great, but clearly reads as military, traditional.
Yep.
And she is one of many, many people from this planet, Kylie 279, with really excellent sort of 1940s throwback hair.
Yeah.
Waves and curls are very popular, and she's what we would recognize as a black woman. Mm-hmm. But she's got those Kylian features, the sort of cerulean eyes, a lovely patterning on foreheads with some extra protrusions that we don't have.
Which, as we see later, is also continued on the legs.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's either that or Spock has a tattoo that we didn't know about.
I was thinking that. And on the screen, they see, indeed, a shot of the USS Archer. There's a beautiful voiceover by Una, by the way.
Yeah.
Number one.
Our first visit from the stars is always the province of children's stories and science fiction.
And yes, how it's a dream until one day it's not.
Oh. Already kind of foreshadowing one of the other thematic elements that, like, death seems impossible and unimaginable.
Right, yes, very much so.
Until it isn't.
Una again and Pike, of course. Which both have that element going through their storyline.
Okay, this episode is so good. It's going to be so heartbreaking when I get to the point where I actually tear it apart.
Right, yes. Next shot, however, we're now watching Yellowstone, except...
Except it heckin' windy.
And there's some big wind turbines standing there. I'm just like, why would they have wind turbines when you have... antimatter, but like it's probably still cheaper or more convenient to like put some wind turbines here and there in areas where you don't want to have them.
They might just be 200 years old. They might be monumental windmills, right? Being historically preserved.
No, possible, quite well so.
Right, this is the 20th
Also, like there's
century?
not a lot of people like windmills that size. They produce quite a bit of power. I don't know like how many people are living in that area there.
Well, by the time you've got a subatomic toaster, you're going to need some juice.
Okay, fair. Pike is watching the day the Earth stood still.
Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Yes, and
with Gort.
Yep, and making pancakes.
There's a very telling speech where the alien Klaatu is lecturing humanity in this film on like the path of self-destruction that it's on, and that there is a community of spacefaring aliens that would welcome them.
Wow, where are we going to see that again?
Yeah. Oh, he's cooking with such love.
Beard does not suit him.
Hey, f*** off, Kay. Hold on, wait.
Yeah, no, I'm with Cocky in this one. F*** off, Kay.
I know personally several listeners that are going to be very upset with you, so I'm just taking their side.
Okay.
I like the beard.
It's like, I mean, I think a beard could look good on him, but it'd have to be like, trimmed a bit. Like unkempt like this, I don't think it suits him.
I wouldn't call it unkempt. Like it's a particular style. He just likes to feel it I mean, he's growing it out until he can feel it on his nipples, which is the thing that he clearly wants.
Okay, I'll accept your headcanon, but
just imagine like a rich, sort of fluffy thatch, the sort of swaying over your entire torso every time
I think it's meant to show personal neglect. But, this might be... I think
that's really fair.
I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah, because we find him in what we realize is a state of depression, a state of denial.
Yeah. He is struggling with the future.
Yeah.
Because he has seen that he is going to die and the way in which... Well, no, he's not going to die. Maybe that's part of the problem.
At least the death of the man I am now.
Because he knows that after an event in the future, he'll be permanently relegated to assisted devices.
Yeah.
And be unable to walk or speak unaided. And there will be a great deal of pain and disability in his future, which, we can understand is a terrifying prospect. And I think you're completely right, because he's ignoring it.
Yeah, he's kind of like trying to not face it. And it's like it's not working because he keeps seeing visions of himself in his reflection throughout the episode until he comes to terms with it later on. But I love that in actually the crossover episode with Lower Decks.
Yeah.
When, what's his face? The main character from Lower Decks.
Boimler. Bradward Boimler.
Who's like, he lets slip that Pike's birthday is a national holiday in the future. And wait, what? And Pike just looks at me and like, yeah, I know. Like, I know why. It's like, I know why. Like, Boimler's like terrified that he's like giving away future information, and just Pike just looks at it like, no, I know why. And it's like...
That was amazing. So he gets a bunch of opportunities to like confront and talk about it, because Captain Battelle, who is... There's not really a label for their relationship, I don't think.
I guess they're trying it out. They're dating, maybe.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair way to say it.
It comes back later in the series. Like it's like I wouldn't say it's on again, off again, but it's like two starship captains don't have a lot of opportunity to see each other because usually one or the other is on a mission. As she actually says, like they talk about like where she's going and like I'll be back in a month and I would like to see you.
But I really hope you're not. You got better places to be.
I
hope you've gotten out of this funk that you're in and that you're off on presumably the Enterprise.
It's a really healthy form of relationship.
Yeah.
Because they're sexual, they're romantic, they're intimate, they're fully focused on one another while they're there. They're deeply enjoying each other's company. But beyond that, like when we move away from each other, we just accept that, seize the opportunities we can.
When we get the opportunities, yes. Although it does lead to a little bit of strain in the relationship later on in the series.
Hey, spoilers. She offers him opportunities to talk about it. She encourages him, which he ignores. The communicator goes.
Which he goes to voicemail.
Phone's ringing again.
Yep. Again, it's like, aren't you going to answer this? Like, maybe. And it's like, oh, it stopped. What do you know? I don't have to answer it. But it's implied that it's been happening.
Yep.
Because a little bit later, he is out riding his horse.
Oh, he's riding hard.
Yes.
He's getting some exercise in. Good for a horse, I'm sure.
I guess, yeah. But it's interrupted by a shuttle flown by Captain Harth. Sorry, General Harth, I believe his name's.
All due respect, Admiral, what the hell do you want?
Oh, I don't know where you got that from.
Oh, it's a trivia. I got it from the trivia
No,
page.
This is Admiral Robert April.
April, that was it. Like, I didn't see. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I just got the name wrong. Sorry.
Canonically, Robert April was the previous commander of the Enterprise.
Uh-huh.
And in this case, like, it's implied that Pike served as his first officer.
Yeah.
So she's been in service, the Enterprise, for a while.
I mean, she was being refitted, basically, at this point. I mean, this is the 1071, no bloody A, B, C, or D, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is. It is, I think, officially the second Enterprise in Starfleet, the first being the NX-01 during the Star Trek Enterprise era. But yes, indeed, no refit has been done yet. Oh, the shuttle sounds so cool. It sounds so cool as it swoops by and lands. And he's doing the sort of Rambo thing.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah.
I need you back in the saddle, he says to...
the guy who just got off his horse.
And Pike keeps rejecting him.
We both agreed that I'd have until Enterprise left space dock before deciding
But
whether
then we
or not...
lost contact with her ship.
And you can see how he's even like he's cuddling his horse, almost for
I thought he was hiding behind it.
Yeah, a little bit,
like,
right?
He's kind of like keeping the horse's head between him and the Admiral. He's kind of like seeking comfort with it, but he's like, to me it felt like he was kind of like shielding himself. Like he's like...
Yeah. And he says, like, hey, you spooked my horse. I don't think that horse is worried about spaceship landing. That's a Starfleet captain's horse.
Yeah. What is it with Starfleet captains and horse riding?
Huh. Yeah. Kirk,
Yeah.
Picard,
yeah.
Pike. I mean, Janeway is able to identify, like, specifically horse manure by scent. And she go, that's manure. Horse manure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is kind of a thing.
They seem to have this thing going. It might just be the writers.
Chief Engineer Greg here. It feels worth pointing out that Kirk is from Davenport, Iowa, and Janeway is from Bloomington, Indiana. Having lived in the Midwest for quite a number of years, you kind of start to recognize, yeah, that's manure. And if you've been around horses a decent amount, you know what horse manure smells like as well. So it may be far into the century, but horse shit still smells like horse shit.
But yeah, he basically orders him.
I'm not sure what this has to do with...
Here's her last transmission. We haven't heard from her since.
Person in trouble is La'an. La'an.
The pronunciation is La'an, but this is actually Una. This is his number one.
Right, yeah, I keep getting confused which one's which.
La'an is an intriguing character because when she was introduced, her full name is La'an Noonien Singh.
Yes, which reads back to a tradition of Gene Roddenberry trying to naming people Singh. Or
Noonien.
Well, or variations thereupon. Like it keeps coming back in various things, which is apparently due to someone he traveled with or served with or something, and he was trying.
I believe it was like an Indian Air Force.
Right. Yes, and he tried
pilot.
to hope to put his name in as various characters in the hopes that they would see that, hear that, and
get back in touch with
him. Yeah,
because after they served together,
they lost contact. Yeah, which is like.
Noonien Sung, the creator of data and lore.
Yep, that's another one that's been famous for that.
But he doesn't have a choice between this order
basically he gets ordered in. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're coming back. Like, it's an order. Like, I was going to try it nicely and give you the opportunity to volunteer, but no, it's an order.
I'm pulling Enterprise out of space dock. She's still on scheduled maintenance. She can skip the redundant systems checks. I want her crewed up and ready to fly by 1800.
Now we get a second intro, as I was like...
Oh, yeah, actually. Yeah, because the show starts with I know it as an ident, a little sort of motion graphic to indicate where we are. Hey, Chief, is this the first use of the sort of Star Trek franchise ident? Yeah. Because it's the same one that we now see. We see it in Picard, we see it in Lower Decks, and all of them.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But every time it's a different spaceship. Yeah. Right now it's the Enterprise.
So the ident is something that Lower Decks has with the Cerritos flying and forming their Starfleet Delta, and then Strange New Worlds has with the Enterprise flying and forming the Delta. I looked at season 3 and 4 of Discovery, and they don't seem to have that. I imagine with the 5th and final season coming up, they will be having that ident as well. But right now, it's just CBS Studios presents and then goes into Previously On.
Come out of these gorgeous opening credits with some fantastic music and the drumming and the cymbal crashes. It's so much fun. It really reminded me of the animated series, opening theme that we watched last week.
I mean, they've got so much to draw from nowadays that you can make it sound a little bit like everything they want to. And to me, it sounded more like, the original series that they tried to get it close to, but not quite the original series tune.
Isn't it wonderful to hear a theme tune that's very close to, but legally distinct from, music that you really enjoy? And
thank you, Fox and More.
Thank you, Fox and More. There are so many references in that. Oh my God. We have by now, I'm sure, been linking to the full version of that. You've got to check that out and just see how much is in there. I heard the Voyager timpani, I heard the Star Trek Picard cellos, references to Enterprising Young Men by Michael Giacchino. It doesn't stop. Such a nerd. Hi, Fox. Thank you.
So, end of credits, and we cut to T'Pol and...
T'Pring.
Sorry, T'Pol is her mother. Is her mother? No, who's T'Pol again? No, T'Pol is from the
science officer on
the Enterprise. Yes. And Spock having dinner, and Spock is trying to lead her on. It's like
this is amazing.
You're sitting here wearing your mating colors, and you're
and yet the entire meal has passed without you.
Querying.
Yes, querying.
This whole thing is so amazing and teaches you so much about Vulcan culture in general and these Vulcans in particular.
So I'm kind of wondering about the whole question and then response, as if, if they actually comment on that. It seems a little bit redundant that we always go through this. But I'm wondering if there's another thing. It's if there's a question and a bugger off reply. It's it's question seems like, can I ask you a question? And response is, I will provide you with an answer. Or something like that.
She's teasing him.
Oh, yes.
Because normally he would say,
query.
And she would go, I am prepared to receive your query.
Yeah.
But instead, she just undermines it with response. The second time around, she even says,
response.
Because she's just messing with him.
Yes, which he concludes towards the end. Now, he actually says that, which I seem to realize that might have been the point here.
This woman, T'Pring, fully Vulcan, but like she's saucy, she likes to play with him. Yep. Of course, this is the woman who would be attracted to Spock. Half human, not fully Vulcan. That would absolutely be something that appeals to her. Yeah. A feature, not a bug, and vice versa.
So this is actually one of a few first, or actually third, Gia Sandhu, who plays T'Pring, as well as Jess Bush, who plays Chappelle, and Celia Rose Gooding, who plays Uhura, are all three the third actor to portray that particular character.
Oh, wow. Trinities.
Yeah.
I like it. Let me see. So T'Pring definitely featured in the original series. Maybe she had two appearances?
I didn't write down the exact appearances of all of these characters. But yes, all three are now on their third actor of portraying this particular character.
Chapel is interesting because she was Majel Barrett originally in the original series. And I wonder who the second one was.
Oh, I think it...
Chief?
So I'm actually not able to find anyone that's portrayed Nurse Chapel that's been credited as such. We see that it's been referenced in the J.J. Abrams movies. However, there is no one else that I can find on Memory Alpha or Memory Beta, which is the Wikipedia for Star Trek. So as far as I can tell, it is just Majel Barrett and Jess Bush as the two people who've portrayed Nurse Chapel.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
It's so nice to be able to move on to these discussions. But with Uhura, I definitely know. Like Nichelle Nichols, the radiant Nichelle Nichols on the original series and the films. She was the equally as radiant Zoe Saldana in the Kelvinverse films, and now Celia Rose Gooding, a name that I still have to sort of internalize, but oh my God.
I love how she's like, you can clearly see that she spent a lot of time studying
Nichelle
Nichols, because like the way she touches the little earpiece and like she's definitely been watching old footage to see how to play the character.
Because there is a very specific sort of poise and grace.
Which she beautifully copies and makes her own, I'd say.
And here comes the query that Spock has been anticipating.
Yes.
And that is...
Will you marry me?
To which he doesn't actually reply. He just leans in, lets her put the groom's necklace. I don't know how this works in Vulcan society, but apparently it's the woman's job to ask.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
But, in retrospect, given there is some gender differentiation within Vulcan culture, but there's also, like, some pretty serious psychological sexual dimorphism.
And he leans in to kiss her. Waiter materializes out of nothing. It goes like...
I'm going to have to ask you two to do that somewhere else. Please.
To which T'Pring says, like, what an excellent idea. But I love that how it's like the waiter just goes like, sorry, you don't do that in public, please. It's like, that's not done.
Because that's the thing with Vulcans. Like, it was made very clear to me on the B-side of the motion picture soundtrack. I found a recording. I think I've talked about it before. And it's an interview of Sarek, Spock's father, in character.
Oh, yes.
By Gene Roddenberry.
Ah, yeah.
And that's where we first, like, really get explicit. Like, emotion is really not a problem. It's the expression of emotion that's just vulgar. Right. In the same way that, like, burping, farting, perfectly
it's
normal.
Just stuff that you just don't do it in public.
Yes, because it's something that makes other people uncomfortable, because it's a cultural thing.
That kind of like reminds me of that episode of Next Generation where Sarek is slowly losing it. He's like, I guess he's
Bandai syndrome.
Yeah, which is dementia-like.
Maybe cognitive Alzheimer's.
Yeah. And then he does the Vulcan mind meld with Picard, who then sits in his quarters, like experiencing all the emotion and like expressing that, while Sarek can just like stand there and be his composed self, handling this very important treaty which needs to be done.
And then you can see that even Picard, who we know has like poise and control, is just letting out this stream of regrets, this intensity that Sarek has apparently been keeping inside this whole time.
But we get a nice cut to, I don't know where this is. It looks like it's like on top of some sort of skyscraper.
On Salon, the seas consist of liquid mercury. Earth's our water.
And on Vulcan, they are not water.
What are the oceans of Vulcan made of? So intriguing. Like, what could they be made of that would be okay for an entire humanoid population to, like, swim in and drink and breathe?
I know, right? Yeah.
There's almost no liquids that as a human you can drink that are sort of okay that aren't water solutions. I think, like, glycerin. Glycerin's one thing that's okay, but it doesn't nourish you. It doesn't do anything.
No. But yeah, Vulcan sexy times are about to... when the communicator goes off, and like anybody who has a partner who has pager duty, it's like, oh, now, why now? It's like, I have to take this, and...
Are you naked?
No, Captain.
No, Chris, he's not. He was about to be.
He would have been.
T'Pring calls him Chris.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're on a first-name basis, I guess.
Yeah. Which I think like shows some familiarity, like they must clearly know each other, but also, yeah, he was about to be naked, Chris. Yeah. You have interrupted something we've been looking forward to for a while. But he's calling Spock back to duty, and Spock immediately responds, yes, I'll see you there. T'Pring will understand. And she says,
like, don't make a habit out of that. Like,
that should have been a query.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about that.
Spock and Pike are reacquainting themselves with each other. A little bit of business talk really about the ship.
Yeah.
How there's a crew rotation.
Personnel rotation was in process. A few officers will have to bill it after the mission. That includes the chief engineer and Lieutenant Kirk, whom I know you requested.
And then Pike says, yeah, but I actually asked how you are.
Yes.
And Spock immediately, like, and openly responds, he misses his sister.
Yeah.
He can't talk about her existence with anybody else. Her very existence is classified.
Yeah. I mean, this comes back later in the series, this is an issue, and I guess it becomes so much of an issue that's how we work her out of why she was never mentioned in any of the previous series.
I don't fully, like, Spock has a proud history of not mentioning his relatives until they're plot relevant, and then raising his eyebrows, and how about that? Yeah. We were here to meet the Vulcan ambassador, and there he is. Also, hi, Dad.
Yeah.
Wait, he's your dad? Yeah, he totally is. You have a brother?
Funny that. Like, lots of people have brothers.
Technically, I have a half-brother. Yeah, but you never talked about him.
Funny
like
that.
all the other 6,000 family members that I have that I don't mention because I just like keeping them little secrets.
We come on board the bridge, which I noticed that the entire primary bridge crew is female, which is probably a conscious decision. But, like, there's a few people on the fridges, but other than Spock and Pike, I don't know if this was like a conscious decision of the writers to
I don't know, but in a purely, if it's an egalitarian system, you expect that kind of clustering to happen.
I mean, you have the same thing. It's like, I think it was a question that was asked of one of the chief justices. What's her name?
Notorious RBG.
Yes, that's the one, yes. It's like, when do you think that there's enough women on the Supreme Court? It's like, well, I guess when there's 9. When it's not unusual.
It was taken hugely out of context by so many people. But yes, when there can be just 9 women, and that just happens to be the concentration this time, and it's not a big deal.
Because it's been like 9 men for, 9 since whenever it came 9 from 7. But yeah, I noticed it. It's and then I had a quick look around, and it's like a few of the other people manning the consoles in the back are men. But
it's kind of telling for us and the lingering sort of sexism of our society that it's something that we noticed.
Absolutely. That's
and in fact that we use the term manning the right.
Yes, very good point. Yes,
continuing struggle to create equity even in our language, let alone our culture. We get the sort of all hands speech.
We're a little early out of the gate, so I hope we didn't catch anybody with your hair wet or your pants down.
Which is kind of dour.
It's really grim, because he finishes with,
nobody dies. This mission will not be anybody's last day.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
And everyone's like, wait, was that an option? Like,
were we planning someone to die? That's not usually how we go into these missions. We get some beautiful shots of like the engineering room.
Yeah.
It's so big and reflective. So that's a whole like LED wall set.
A volume, I believe. Or are they not calling that anymore?
No, I think the brand name is Stagecraft. But
okay. And I know that's what it was called when they were shooting Mandalorian with it, which I believe was the first series that started using that on a...
But the volume is also the term given to the mocap space in Avatar by James Cameron. So it's a bit... But yeah, this one could only exist with a fully computerized like LED system. All these reflections. We see the mess hall, which is a great set. The warp streaks through the windows. We see so many of the crew, a very diverse, healthy, fit crew, like the kind of Starfleet we imagine that these are...
All of them overachievers.
Oh my God, yes. And the pints and pints of workahol being pumped into the atmosphere.
Workahol, wow.
Hey.
Pike, in the meantime, is not having quite as much of a good time after he finishes, because he gets a flashback to his, demise. Let's call it that.
Yeah, I think this is something that he's doing to himself. And of course, this is the, how it is with dark thoughts that haunt us. We give them a lot of time. So he's just spending some time on his own.
Yeah.
Just like reliving these horrifying memories.
Excuses himself to go through his quarters where Spock shows up to, like, check in on him, I suppose.
Are you yourself, sir?
Well, I'm very much myself. That's the problem.
Very pointedly, like, returning the favor.
Yes.
And Pike returns, like, the respect by saying what he's feeling. And what he's feeling is bad. He's just...
I'm already second-guessing myself, and that's the last thing a captain can afford.
Suffering can be transformed into insight.
Yes. Also, one more thing, like when he walks off, there's like a little gaff there. He says, like...
Number 1, you have the comm.
But it's you have the con.
Ah, yes. A term that the origin is not known, like why it's called the conning chair.
You know, it's the conning tower in, like, submarines.
Right, but what is conning?
Yeah. No
right?
idea.
It's not known to have a clear etymology, I think.
Okay. I'd have to look that up. Greg, can you check that for us? Like, if there's a obvious etymology for con?
Okay, so con, yes. There's not 100% sure on how it got started. It started about 1800 to 1810 in that ballpark. So it is believed to be a variant of con from Middle English, condun, condien from Anglo-Norman conduire, from Latin conduco. So it does seem to appear to be derived from that, and it does kind of track with Latin and French, which is derived from Latin, yada yada. There's not a clear, concise etymology for where that comes from, but it's believed to be from Middle English.
Okay, one of two responses. Either, oh, that's surprising, I didn't know there was one. Or, see, there wasn't one, was there?
You're totally cool, right.
Oh, there's one question there, which is that after Pike reveals to Spock, you know, this vision that he's had of the future on the Klingon planet of Boreth, Spock asks, is it soon?
It's almost a decade away.
Is that soon? Suddenly that feels soon.
I love that, like, how Spock was like, well, there's a monastery there and, like, some rare mineral that gives you visions of the future. Both have known to change people. Wasn't the monastery. It was like, all right.
And he says, very wisely, suffering can be transformed into insight. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily something that he already knows from experience or something that's part of his education, because he's a very young Vulcan still.
Yeah.
And even though he's experienced quite a lot, like, he isn't the wise Spock that we know from the movies. And he says,
you must seek out the good in knowing your own death. Use it to be the man you most essentially are.
And who's that Spock?
The captain.
Because Pike is questioning himself, which he actually says is like the worst thing that can happen to a captain, like you second-guessing himself. Because I know that that's going to happen. Like, I mean, he kind of has plot armor until that point in time, if, like, the future is immutable.
Yeah, good point.
He kind of knows that he has plot armor because, like, if the future prediction thing is known to always be correct and true and nothing can be changed.
Yeah, he can't die.
Yeah.
Unkillable. It did make me too cautious, not cautious enough.
Right. But they make it to the planet where they find the Archer empty.
Yes, they get a ping from the Archer on the night side, and on the day side, they get a visual. That was quick.
No, he said, like, oh yeah, fly around. Yeah, you got a good point, yeah. There's a little bit of, like, it's too quiet here. Like, we should put up the shields, which is... No, Ortegas is the helmsman.
Yes, this is La'an.
La'an, that's the one.
Who is the temporary number one,
First
which
officer,
Kirk was a little bit surprised about.
Pike.
Sorry, Pike.
Yes.
Thank you. But so we have, on the one hand, Spock is advising, like, there's no reason for concern. And La'an identifies that, no, there are red flags and we should raise shields. Pike goes with La'an, and it's a good thing, too.
Because moments later, they launch 3 plasma torpedoes, I believe the word is.
Plasma torpedoes. 3 direct hits.
Damage assessment.
Minimal, but if we hadn't had our shields up.
But at this point, they start to realize, like, hang on, things is not correct here. Like, none of the things, there's no subspace chatter, there's nothing going on here. There's no
intrasolar
there's no orbital stations, there's nothing, there's no space travel here. These people shouldn't be able to have warp technology.
Yep.
What's going on here?
And then it becomes a really interesting sort of discussion about General Order 1.
Yeah.
Which is not to interfere with the natural development of species that doesn't have...
Yes.
Well, that doesn't have warp travel.
Yes.
Which is a sort of legal grey area. There was a really interesting analysis of this episode by thelegalgeeks.com.
Yeah.
And it's about what would be a defense for Pike's actions, because he does wind up, of course, involving himself with it. And they argue that the test should be the necessity defense, which has been used in the case of State versus Rain, Minnesota in 1991.
Yeah.
So it has to consist of 6 components. That the Pike acted in an emergency to prevent significant bodily harm or evil to Kylie or himself. That he had no adequate legal alternative.
Fair, yeah.
Third, that the act did not create greater danger than the one avoided.
I would give it that as well,
right,
yes.
Also. 4, when the defendant acted, he actually believed that the act was necessary to prevent the threatened harm or evil.
Clearly.
Also. 5, a reasonable person would also have believed that was necessary.
Yeah, not unreasonable to come to this conclusion.
And 6, the defendant did not substantially contribute to the emergency.
Also true.
Yeah, it's a really interesting analysis, which assumes that it's under the California Criminal Code.
It didn't create it in order to be able to meet the other credit, basically, essentially.
They're a good set of tests.
Yeah.
As you know, the Vulcans invented first contact.
As they never fail to remind us.
Remind us. And we get a quick sort of introduction, because for a lot of people watching, this might be their very first episode of Star Trek ever.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because it was made to be accessible. It's episodic, it's more adventurous, about Discovery rather than the series Discovery. And so it's really accessible for people to, hey, you've never seen Star Trek before?
Yeah, might as well jump in, yeah.
Really? And so the Federation of Planets is introduced. Here we have all these planets.
Which are local to this area, and they've already joined or they're about to join.
And all of them developed warp travel first. But in this case, this species developed a warp bomb.
Yeah.
Which is something that you can do first. It's just nobody's done it.
Put another way, the nuclear bomb could have been invented before particle physics. It simply never has been.
Like, you could discover that you can hypercompress these particular materials after you've purified them to a level that's unsafe for humans to be near.
The problem would be, like, finding out what happened. It's like...
Analyze the results,
I can just let's see what happens if we like take this plutonium and like do an implosion and like see how far we can compress it. And then there's like suddenly a big crater there, and it's like, oh, I wonder what happened there. It's like something happened.
Well, maybe we had some telescopes that sort of pointed at it and we could deduce from there. I'm reminded of Douglas Adams in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He talked about this alien species that had like 28 arms.
Oh, yes, the only species to invent the deodorant before the wheel.
Down to sickbay to do an infiltrate, which is Pike's solution to the problems that Spock and La'an both pose. Like,
General Order 1 applies.
We cannot interfere with their natural development. We cannot show ourselves
but if they've already seen us...
We cannot risk the possibility.
Well, so we just leave our people there?
Hardly.
Nurse Chappelle has, like... Chapel, sorry. Seems to be a disguised expert. Just like you're a rocket ship pilot.
A bit of professional snipping between two professional women. But, I was worried, would this be played for laughs? Because it is like a toxic relationship and a bit of a trope that, is more common in series where there are only 2 capable women in the cast and they have some sort of adversarial, conflicting relationship.
Oh, yeah.
But this is very quickly subverted because she is an expert in epigenetics and a special project capable of engineering a solution to their infiltration problem, just to briefly turn them essentially into superficial Kylians.
Yep, which works really fast.
Yes.
It's also really painful. I mean, that would make sense, because it works so fast. Like, your body is regrowing itself at a massive rate.
Yes.
Pointed ears disappearing, ridges, coloration, everything.
Your body is going to undergo compressed, jury-rigged metamorphosis. It's painful.
To which there is a bit of a machismo going on about, are we going to take sedation for this or not?
Oh, you read it as machismo?
I wasn't sure what it was.
Well, because it's specifically La'an who declines the sedative or the anesthetic,
right?
The analgesic. I don't know what the term is, Chief.
So the main difference between analgesia and anesthesia is that an analgesic is a pain-free state without loss of consciousness, whereas anesthetics is a state achieved where there is a loss of touch, pain, and temperature sensations with or without the loss of consciousness. So anesthesia is associated with some degrees of analgesia, but not vice versa. Basically, the difference is if you're going under, then that's anesthetic. If you're not going under, then that's analgesics.
Thank you. But so it's specifically, she doesn't want to have her awareness impaired.
Right.
Which is maybe it might be machismo. She is a security officer.
But her exact wording is what confuses me. Because
Are you giving me a direct order to allow sedation during this procedure, Captain?
Oh, sorry, I mean for me to allow them to give it to me. No, I get it now, yeah.
Oh, you thought that it was for all of them?
No, I mean, it's like for a moment there, I thought it was specific. Like, are you giving me an order that gives me permission to have sedation? Was how I interpret it. As if that she had something that would if there was some sort of cultural thing that doesn't allow her to be sedated for procedure for.
Interesting. But ambiguity in the English language.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
But no, she's not being ordered to permit herself to be sedated.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yes.
And that's when Chapel immediately goes,
"Hang in there, sister."
Because what you're in for is no fun. And we don't know why she wants to put herself through this.
No,
I mean, this is
but she's tough because she sits and weathers it out, and Spock later has a lot more problem with it. We can see like how much pain she is suffering through. But then again, Spock's system is different, so it might hit him even worse.
Yeah, that's also possible.
Because it's not going to work as long on Spock because his Vulcan human genetics.
So we learned that the transporter can do some things that we've never seen it before, which is so cool.
Maybe he's from the Bryno school of transporter engineer.
Oh, this is Chief Kyle, a character name recycled from the original series, now played by an Asian American actor, presumably American. I don't know about that part, but oh god, I like Chief Kyle so much, and he's got a really hot variant of the uniform.
Oh, with the almost lapel-like.
Yeah, he's got black sleeves. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of variations of this uniform that I really, really enjoy. Some of them have like black paneling on the side, and they have like a looser opening. It seems to be like some personal variations that you can choose from.
It's only upper sleeve. His upper arms, his forearms are red.
Oh, I see.
As you can see when he pushes the sliders.
But he's got black epaulets where everybody else are like there. And they've got this cool feature on the sleeves. I've heard it called raglan sleeves. I'm not entirely sure if that's correct.
Yeah.
But like the epaulets have a different texture, and then the outer half of the sleeves has a slightly different texture as well.
Okay.
So they look like sort of sportswear, but they're also very much tunics.
Yep. And we have the transporter is now also an instant clothes changer.
Exactly. All the local clothing patterns have been loading into the buffer.
And
they will get new haircuts as well.
Yeah, that's also like something that's not supposed to happen in the...
Apparently, the transporter can just do that.
Yeah.
Because, like, La'an has a pretty, like, probably labor-intensive hairstyle that she wears these tight patterned braids that must be incredibly difficult to do solo. And now she's got these loose sort of 1940s...
Very similar hairstyle to what the Prime Minister or the President later has.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So it's like probably just like, patterned on something they've seen as a local style.
And Spock asked the question that launched a million gifs.
Captain, where are my pants?
Yeah.
And scrolls down to, and I swear, I thought it was like a dope leg tattoo on his calf.
Right, but I think it's just like, the
natural patterning of the Kylians,
yes. Because he's apparently the only one in shorts. Like, there's like desperately, I was trying to look for like what is everybody else wearing, but we only get waist up shots really. They quickly subdue two scientists who come walking out of the building, which is heavily shielded, and they send them over to the Enterprise.
Yes, I like that La'an went to the captain.
Captain, permission to act fast.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Right, not explaining because I need to act fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And he gives her permission, and then she, je suis fatiguée. I am suddenly tired. Please come over here.
She feigns pain and grab my medication.
Get his neck. What? Get his neck. Get his neck. Oh.
Yeah.
And Spock jumps into action.
He neck pinches them into unconsciousness.
Because she thinks that these people have access to that building because they just came out of it, that they can use to get back in.
Yeah. Nurse, what was it? Chapel, right, yes. Manages to use the DNA of one of them to help boost Spock's disguise, which is already starting to wear off.
This whole scene, I know that we're trying to like speed through it a little bit, but it's really... No, I know, it's just going to be a long one.
Already an hour 10 in.
It's just going to be a long one. There's no other way. It's the first time I'm watching Strange New World.
Yeah, no, true.
But this is just such a fantastic sort of comedy of error situations where they've got them sedated on two biobeds. They scan the one, not this one. Scan the other one. Oh, we're in luck. Until the first one wakes up again.
Yep.
They sedate him. And then the one that they need wakes up and runs off.
Yes.
And runs into, eventually, like, the elevator where Uhura is already there. And she just doesn't miss a beat. Immediately knows what's going on. And she says,
"Hi."
Apparently she's been listening to the local communication traffic because she starts, what do people like to talk about? Sports ball.
Like the game tag ball on your planet. The back tack makes all the decisions.
You know tag ball?
And it just relaxes him. It's like
yes!
He just like...
Because this is what Uhura does, make connections.
Yeah.
And just effortlessly, because yes, of course, she's the chief communications officer. She's read the complete debrief about the cultural aspects of Kylie, which the captain and Spock apparently have not, because they're taken by surprise by the news broadcast of a centuries-old conflict that they're just discerning now.
Yes, which is like kind of left in the dark what it is, but it's like a seditious faction.
There's a governing faction and a seditious faction, yeah.
Right, which I'm saying, like, if this has like been going on for centuries, so like some people might call this like different countries at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We're getting closer to my warp core breach.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, is it like the monoculture planet again, which has a seditious faction?
I'm not telling.
Okay, sure. Yeah, there's a little bit of Chapel running through the corridors, bumping into people, eventually seeing him disappear into the turbo lift where Uhura is. She rushes back to sick bay, where it's like...
Can we fire up the emergency medical transporter?
Yes.
And as Uhura and our unnamed Kylian walk out to the bridge, she like...
beams him, hates him.
She just stabs him with the...
And they have what they need to deliver an emergency eye salve that is beamed onto Spock's corneas as he's going through the scanner.
Yeah,
amazing. Look, transporters can't do that. Well, I kind of
make it do it. I mean, that's like literally what you said. It's like... That's what Rhino has to do. It's like they're not meant to do this. Well, make them do it anyway.
Yes. Now that they're inside the shielded building, they can actually get readings on where their crew are, and they're down, like way down. So into the elevator they go, where there's space alien Muzak.
Yes, and one of the aliens watches like Spock's ears.
She's a flirty one.
Yeah.
She first goes, she puts the smile on, fresh meat.
And then, what's going on? Oh, this is us. Like, Pike's like, this is our floor. Like, out.
Spock, your ears.
I'm aware. The pain is quite remarkable.
Yeah. Wow. And they open a cell where they find, on the cell, the walls are marked with Kylian graffiti.
There was lots of scribbling on there. I'm not entirely sure why they would have a cell complex in a research facility like this, but...
I'm sure the Pentagon has holding cells.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Good point. Yeah, no.
And it also probably has like an R&D lab.
And it has
somewhere.
twice as many bathrooms as it needs.
Why was that again?
Because it was built during segregation times.
That's right. That's just so awesome. Yeah. It also has the world's most dangerous hot dog stand.
Oh, why is it so dangerous?
So during the Cold War era, the Soviet spy planes would occasionally get footage of the Pentagon, and they noticed that there was an unusual concentration of high-ranking and low-ranking personnel at this specific building in the middle of the sort of Pentagon open atrium, and that must therefore be like a place where communications are dispensed or like orders are given or security clearances are revised.
That was where the hot dog stand was.
This is the hot dog stand where people got their lunch.
Yeah.
Where we find the worst for wear, number one, Una Chin Riley.
Yep.
It's quite a look.
Really? How about thank you for saving me?
Somehow, I figured you might.
Played by the luminous Rebecca Romain.
With
Romain Stamos? I think Romain.
Yeah, sounds very Dutch.
She is Dutch.
Oh,
of Dutch ancestry.
Right.
I don't know that... She supposedly has spoken it on a clip that I wasn't able to access, ironically, from the Netherlands.
Hey, Chief Engineer Greg, just want to chime in. It's not Stamos. She divorced John Stamos some years back. I'm also just a big fan of Rebecca Romain because she was in X-Men movies when I was growing up. She was Mystique. So I'm also just so happy that she gets to do more where she, 1, gets to wear her clothes, 2, isn't like in head-to-toe makeup, and 3, when it's her doing something, it's actually her and not like the actors that she's pretending to be as her characters. So I'm just so happy for Rebecca here. She's great, and I love her in this so much. She's fantastic.
Yes, and the other 2 crew members of the Archer.
Of the gigantic USS Archer. They have received medical attention because he's got an arm in a sling.
Yes, he's got a shot wound, apparently.
But it's like a proper sling. Like, it's not something that they had to...
improvise. She is definitely not quite entirely mobile because he has to be assisted by Pike.
But they have an opportunity to escape.
Although they are met with a delegate unit, whatever you want to call it.
Entirely Spock's fault.
Entirely Spock's fault, yes.
Because he jinxed it, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And then he starts screaming because apparently the pain really becomes too much to bear.
And then he's standing back up with his hair in the regular style and his ears all pointing.
That's better.
Yeah.
Combat!
Everybody is like... I mean, this feels like such a role-playing game scenario, you know? It's like someone misses an important role and they're like, oh, well, guess it's fighting.
Now, if I were the public prosecutor in this case, then this would, for me, undermine Pike's argument that he didn't contribute to the escalation of the issue, because he did, during an illegal incursion onto sovereign soil, attack local security people. Like, disabling the two scientists outside in the first place was pretty bad, but now it's hand-to-hand and choppy-choppy, and they could have been seriously injured.
But it's, no, of course, but it's like it's not contributing to the breach of the Prime Directive.
We're getting closer to my word breach, because it would be, I think, completely acceptable to expect Starfleet officers to die in the service of General Order 1. Yeah, you want to make contact, you want to discover things without contaminating.
Right.
Well, your life is not as important as General Order 1, and you know that going in.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine that Starfleet would, like, it clearly isn't, based on the historical evidence that we have for the many, many times that the Prime Directive has been breached.
Well,
it's more of a suggestion than a directive, in all honesty.
There is at least one case. Okay, yeah, sure.
I mean, how many times has the Prime Directive been breached by usually the ship's captain of whichever series we're watching, and has essentially gone without consequences?
There is the Riker precedence. When Riker was in almost the exact same situation. In The Next Generation, he was surgically altered to appear like a local species and infiltrated there, and he was discovered, and they discovered that, hold on a minute, he has the wrong number of penises. Or whatever they discovered about him. He was fully prepared to die there, rather than reveal the existence of alien life to a species that was not rated for the discovery.
I mean, to be honest, like, the revelation of alien life at that point would have already been there.
In fact, I imagine that you probably have like a pretty significant, you probably have like a bit of antimatter that you can take to make sure. Because imagine, like, you die, all of your space bacteria now enter the biosphere when your body decomposes.
Yeah.
Right, against which they...
but that's what, like, presumably you transport down, and the biofilters take care of that.
How are you going to digest food if you don't have them? Right?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously do scans to make it compatible with the local biosphere. Otherwise, that's a problem.
That's impressive.
I mean, that clearly it works. Otherwise, like, you can't take a poo on an alien planet without...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm thinking about Journeyman, a short-lived time travel TV show with Kevin McKidd in 2007, which featured him sort of quantum leaping back and forth through time. And at one point, like, he gets a gunshot in the future, and then he zaps back in time to the 1970s and is taken to the hospital, where they're amazed that, okay, this infection is progressing. Like, we're giving him every antibiotic we have, and it's doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because, 1970s antibiotics wouldn't stand a chance against modern pathogens.
No.
They subdue the local workforce, and they're in the elevator up to the surface.
Yes, and this is where we hear how they acquired the warp technology.
Yes, which initially, number one, doesn't want to talk about, because none of the other crew members here were
are cleared for this bit of information,
I mean, even Captain Patel in the beginning, who has deeper clearance than Pike has. No, you can't know about this.
Yeah.
We gave it to them, Captain. We're less than 1 light year out from 0 Point.
0 Point.
Where we and the crew of Discovery opened up a wormhole to the future.
And so Una reveals way more than is necessary, because all she needed to tell was about this space battle. But she said, yes, before we opened a wormhole to the future so that the super AI could be sent to...
Yes.
What the hell? This is completely irrelevant. There was just a space battle.
Yeah.
Not a secret thing. Leave that.
Good point.
And then Pike... he does the sort of captain thing where he leans against the wall and goes, oh, the weight of responsibility.
Yes, sees himself in his burnt, irradiated state.
And he makes the decision, because it is a decision. He interprets this situation. Hey, this crisis here is not a naturally occurring crisis that we have to, like, we are responsible for it. We always were. And we're responsible for the consequences. So it is necessary to do something.
Yeah.
That necessity defense. And what he decides to do, sends most of the crew back, except for Spock.
I love this shot. This is finally a massive gripe which I've always had with Star Trek is finally addressed properly here. It's like, it's usually when it's like there's a group of people standing there, like 4 to beam up, and somehow the transporter officer knows exactly which 4 people are supposed to go for the plot and which one is supposed to say. But here specifically says
4 to beam up. Leave the captain and the science officer behind.
Like, she actually explicitly says which four who needs to beam up. So, yes, finally, someone.
Because they don't know that Chief Kyle is an ancestor of O'Brien, whose protocol is to always, like, invade the privacy of everyone who goes down because he's so bored. He's just listening in all the time. And we all just know that he does it. Yeah. So we just... And now it's Kirk and Spock goes,
"Is this wise? I am clearly alien."
That's what I'm counting on.
And out they step to a security detail who immediately point their weapons, at the pointy ears.
Yeah.
Take me to your leader.
I love it. It's like fantastic.
So he's the new Klaatu in this story, right?
Yes.
And he's facing this very severe woman who is...
Yeah, the prime minister or the whatever.
And she's positioned as like very uppity and aggressive. Yeah. And I've seen some reviews that mention this, and I deeply disapprove of that. In part because as a proud son of a family with many formidable women, a woman in a position of power with a responsibility over a culture who doesn't accept slights to either that culture or herself is perfectly fine.
I'm getting some almost Chinese vibes over this from... Like, imagine
from the design or from the...
No, from the way she acts and the decisions she makes. Mm-hmm. It feels very much like this planet's culture is China and the insurrectionists are Taiwan. And they're like...
Oh, yes.
It's an internal matter. None of your business. Like,
have your people never put down civil unrest?
And like, this is our business, how we deal with this. What business is this? None of yours. Like, we're not accepting you. You might be a space aliens, but... This is our planet, our thing. We do as we want here.
Yes, exactly. And that's perfectly right. That's the concept of like sovereignty and independence is, yes, these are our decisions to make. They're not yours. And Pike...
No, I'm saying that we should have been more circumspect about exposing our technologies.
Oh, so our scientific advances are your mistake, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because he really is.
Technically, yeah.
And she also doesn't want to hear, like... His sort of platitudes seem to her to be naive. You know, you have to negotiate, debate. And she asks...
Tell me, are there groups who refuse to negotiate with you? Powerful groups?
And he doesn't answer it.
No.
And this is to the episode's credit, because that's not what he wants to talk about. He doesn't want to talk about this problem that is unsolvable, because it is. There's no good solution to a conflict of this scale. I descend from people from Northern Ireland. I've lived there for a portion of my childhood. And I'm familiar with at least a glimpse of this concept of living with a conflict that really doesn't have a solution. Because, yes, okay, when one can look at, on paper, the troubles in Northern Ireland, as they were called, like Unionists versus Republicans,
right?
Independence versus unification, Protestant versus Catholic. But in the actual heart of the conflict, that's not what it was about. Everyone who's fighting now has lost an aunt or a brother or a child to an attack by the other side or a slight by the other side. And it's an endless cycle of pain for whom the original motivations don't really... they barely matter.
Yeah, not at all.
It's all hung on principles that are, in fact, designed to be impossible, because the more impossible the conflict, the more attractive it is, and the more excuses given. Yeah. Pardon me for moralizing, but this struck me as very serious, which is why I was very disappointed when Pike's solution...
It's gone about diplomacy.
Yeah. Because she refuses his offers.
Yeah.
And she says, okay, I'm not accepting what you're offering.
Yeah.
You're an invader on foreign soil, and I'm rejecting you. Please take them away to be arrested, processed, maybe even to be like returned to their...
we don't know that.
And he decides to turn around and yells at his communicator, which is lying on her table.
Yeah. Hey,
don't say that on a... Greg, you've bleeped that out, haven't you?
Enterprise to lower orbit, full visibility, show them what you got.
And now, outside the window, and Spock goes, ooh, what was that? Oh, no, wait for it. Here come the alarms. Because outside the window is a giant golf spaceship.
Just like you said, whoever has the biggest stick wins. In this case, that is me.
And now Kaki ejects his warp core. Because where we go here now is that even after an interlude in the meantime, when he's returned to the ship and he learns from La'an, her experience, that people who are about to die experience surprise, which he remembers as well, because he has the memory.
Because right up until the last moment, they couldn't imagine dying.
And that teaches him this lesson. Like, you can never imagine the utter destruction until it's about to happen. And that motivates him to go down and show a fantastic slideshow of some really impactful imagery, including the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, tying that into...
It started as a small internal conflict in one country, and then it spread out to the entire planet.
Became the Second Civil War, became the Eugenics Wars.
Eventually became World War III.
What began as an eruption in one nation ended in the eradication of 600,000 species of animals and plants and 30% of Earth's population.
Right, yes, which is actually for the first time confirmed, it makes it canonical how many people died in World War III in Star Trek.
Well, as we've learned from canon, or from Strange New Worlds, has done it very well, that canon sort of moves.
Right, but it's never actually been explicitly mentioned.
Well, also, it's not going to be that number later on, because the whole Third World War seems to move throughout history, depending on various time factions or whatever.
You'll use competing ideas of liberty to bomb each other to rubble just like we did, and then your last day will look just like this.
And the conflict is resolved because he has shown these people like what's going to happen to your planet. This is what happened to mine. I want to avoid that. And this is where I have to eject my warp core, because the idea that a conflict that has lasted for centuries, on this planet can be resolved by people suddenly becoming aware of the consequences. We just have too many examples of that not being true. The climate crisis that we're facing. None of it is surprising to anyone who is to any climatologist. The COVID pandemic, where 1 million Americans, the wealthiest, most technologically advanced country in the world, with the greatest freedom and scientists, 1 million people there died of a disease that shouldn't have killed anyone had protocols been observed. So the idea that, all we have to do is show these primitives the consequences of their actions, and then they'll realize not to do it. No, these people could absolutely imagine it, and it wasn't enough. It never is.
Now, allow me to be the other voice then for a change.
Please, by all means.
So for a start, and he goes now I have the bigger stick. I think that is partially bluff.
So angry.
Sorry? Oh, no, I get that. But it's mostly, I think what he's actually doing is he is putting it out there. Because that's especially in the shot we see next one, it's now suddenly about aliens. The general populace didn't know about the ship. They had only seen the first contact. They didn't know about the prisoners. The government hadn't, given put this information out there. He suddenly makes it visible to everybody. Now there's aliens. And suddenly, and then he goes and he watches them having their discussions where initially saying this is going well, but it's not going anywhere. They're literally just shouting at each other from across their lessons. And then he comes in and he gives his speech and he puts an offer on the table. He says you can either keep going and fighting and destroy yourself with this technology that we inadvertently gave you, or you can join us.
Maybe that's the good in seeing my future, that I might remind you that right up until the very end, life is to be worn gloriously.
The first part, you're absolutely right. Exposing the public to this, changing the debate. Yeah, that's totally right, because that probably also changes the political support that the governing and seditious factions enjoyed within their population. This other side, he doesn't actually propose a solution to what is the solution to the Northern Irish situation where half the population feels it's an Irish, Ireland is a nation and the other half or portion or whatever. I'm grossly simplifying. There isn't actually a solution to that.
No, there isn't.
Where,
Well, other than maybe the implication as I get it here is that if you just stop fighting and join the Federation, then you're all going to be part of the Federation, and you're not being.
But none of this changes. Who gets to live in Jerusalem? Not to even go crazier. And I don't want to be disrespectful to the current crisis in Israel, of course. But when there are competing worldviews that are both equally valid and supported by evidence. Again, I'm not relating it to the current, but in a situation where for everyone's worldview is rational from their own position, and they're completely contradictory. The only But then, if this is the reality, then we have only really two end goals. One of them is the eradication of one side through genocide, and the other is eternal war.
Yes.
So there is no solution to this. There is only compromise. And compromise is incredibly difficult and terrible and painful.
Right, yes. And the only solution is compromise until compromise becomes normal. And then that is...
Again, this is what happened in Northern Ireland, the Good Friday Accord.
Which was unfortunately upset a little bit by Brexit.
A little bit is generous, But there, again, Brexit is also such an example of a crisis whose consequences were very clearly visible.
Yes.
So I remain upset. This is the anger where I come from, because we see here the finest crew in Starfleet, one of the finest crews in Starfleet, who should stand for justice, truth, and exploration. And they're in this planet where there's a centuries-old conflict that they just discovered yesterday. And Pike has decided, I'm going to solve this, not through humility or sacrifice.
No.
But through an act of technological and cultural supremacy.
Yeah.
Because who is he to say that this planet is the same as Earth?
Yes. Well, there are several times mentioned that there's a lot of similarities, but yeah.
From his point of view,
we don't know
he's been there for 48 hours.
We don't even know the origin of the conflict, what it's about, right. No, that's absolutely true.
Because, like, if there is not a resolution, but like a compromise, it has to come from within. It has to be learned and earned by Kylians. Because to do otherwise, like, that's just like colonialist thinking. I am
right.
Okay, my work core is dumped.
And the implication is that from the shots we see, it's like we see classrooms where people draw pictures of the Enterprise. We see what looks like a wedding ceremony or something where they're holding up a paper cutout of the Enterprise, like some religious ceremony study. Like, it seems like
This is a terrible idea. So now they've got idolatry about the Enterprise?
Well, I mean, yeah, that seems to be the embrace. I think that's what they're trying to show. Embrace of Federation culture, and that they're motivated to put their differences apart and in order so that they can join the Federation. That seems to be the implication, what I'm getting from here.
I think you're genuinely right.
And can understand that you're angry about that, because that seems to be we're going to forget all about our internal conflict just so we can idolize this space culture.
Yeah. But I've said that. I've done my warp core, and in the spirit of the joy of Trek, I honestly expected that you would have something smart to say about it, because I know that you're very, very intelligent. But I wasn't expected to be brought back on board quite as much as I have, because now it is much less about who owns this plot of land, who has a claim over this tragedy. We can be Kylians in space. We can be members of this greater community where our diversity is equally as celebrated. We have other opportunities than just the
ones on here on the planet. Yeah.
Yeah. That even though we're not going to be satisfied, it's not the only thing that we have to want. And we can want new things together.
Right. And the scope has broadened. Like, the playing field has suddenly expanded massively.
And it's going to happen through children. I think you mentioning that shot of this.
Yes, that's a very good point, yes.
They're going to grow up knowing that we have a small world with a terrible history and a big problem, and we're part of this huge world that is actually much more important for us to learn about.
Yeah. There we go. We find the good in every episode.
Greg here. Getting a little bit personal, I watched this episode right after losing our dog very suddenly, and I was just in a dark, shitty place where all I wanted was just to sit down and just watch something and just feel happy for a little bit. And that's why I go to Star Trek, to see some light and hope and love in the world for a little bit. So Pike's speech here immediately won me over to the series and was a cathartic balm that I needed when I started watching this a few months ago. And I love how Pike ends his speech here, because it does make you want to strive to be better and strive to improve the world for people to come.
Go to war with each other. Or join our Federation of Planets and reach for the stars. The choice is yours.
Now, it is troubling that the Enterprise then sort of dusts its hands. Well, job done. 48 hours, we just solved war on this planet. Off to the next one.
First back to Starbase 1, because there's
for a royal chewing out.
Yeah, because the Admiral has to have done a little bit of smoothing over. He's had to read up on his security clearances about the things that happened with Discovery.
He actually had to go to whatever CNC is physically to get read into
Yes. It's one of those things we do not transmit this. You have to be in a secure environment where there
is one copy of this book and this room that you can be in for.
And then you're allowed to read it, and you're not allowed to.
And we're going to scan you atom by atom to see if any of it made it out.
Exactly.
Wow.
Since the Council can't acknowledge that the battle ever actually took place.
It cannot acknowledge how the people of Kylie 279 acquired war.
Council's not happy about it.
It's not a breach of a Prime Directive.
Oh, it's not about warp drive, but warp bomb is close enough. Okay, valid. Yeah, okay. Also, General Order 1 is now, like, being amended.
They're doubling down, renaming it the Prime Directive. Well, that'll never stick.
That'll never catch up.
That's such a prequel line, but also it's super cheesy, and I do love cheesy things. It's so great. And then we get a little bit between La'an and Pike.
Yeah.
I hear from your tone of voice that you were equally, like, as sort of surprised at this as I was.
Yeah, what's going on here? Like,
this is a manufactured conflict.
Right. Yeah.
I should have told you that I knew number one, because that was a surprise, you know, when they busted the jailbreak.
Like, why is this a
you
problem?
Know each other?
Yeah.
Well, okay, why is it a problem? Lots of people know each other.
Yeah, it's like, she was on the ship that found her when she was, like, had been released by the Gorn.
She helped me find my way back home. She's the reason I joined Starfleet.
Yeah, great.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And Pike did exactly this when he walked into sickbay and hugged Dr. Mbenga, whom also, why haven't we mentioned Dr. Mbenga? He's amazing in this episode where,
Dr. Mbenga toured the Mojave with me and I toured Kenya with him.
Dr. Mbenga, one of the ancestors of the Fremen in 10,000 years.
Yes. Bab Solusan Mokun, fantastic actor with a rich, gravelly voice.
Doc, please dispense some wisdom.
Okay. Never get the house dressing.
The knife of Muad'Dib.
He is the friend. Follow the friend. Teaches in the ways of the desert in the Denis Villeneuve film Dune. That's the first time that I became aware of him. I'd actually seen him before. He's a fantastic actor. I'd seen him in a few other things, but I'd never noticed him as much as there, and now here as well. Which is, okay, so when I showed my husband this episode, it was like, okay, so we have all of these amazing people. We have Ortegas, who kicks ass. We have Chapel. Everybody looks so fit. One of these is like a world championship level expert in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Which one do you think it is? And you're like, it's probably going to be Ortegas, isn't it? Like, nope, not Ortegas. It's Dr. Mbenga. What the hell? He just sits there.
Turns out to be, like, spoilers, like the assassin, the death in the night kind of guy who is like, he's got a bit of a dark history there.
I'm also not fully sure how to pronounce it because it's M apostrophe. Yeah. So, like, I'm used to reading an apostrophe as a glottal stop.
Yeah.
So it would be like Mbenga.
Yeah.
But I hear it pronounced as Mbenga.
Mbenga, yeah.
Just like it's a voiced lead into the P.
No idea.
No, not entirely sure. But so this supposed conflict where La'an says, I should have told you that I knew about it. Oh, Pike says, tell me now. Like they're bonding over. I don't understand why this was necessary.
But he decides to, like, despite this horrible, terrible slight, decides to offer her a position as security officer on the Enterprise.
And he does the sort of captain-y thing where, she says, like, other people are challenging for me. And he sort of looks around for a metaphor. Where's metaphor? Oh, right here.
You know how those domes got up here?
Yeah.
And I genuinely love it.
But when the war was over and Earth had rebuilt, the forests were too large to bring home. So Starfleet built its first base around them.
But we're all on board. The last of the crew are beaming aboard, including the mustachioed...
The Kirk that was hinted at the beginning of the episode. Oh, like, because we know that Kirk, like James T, served under Pike. But no, it's his brother.
Yep. With a lovely moustache.
The porn stash, the 70s porn tashed.
Okay, I've known you a very long time.
I know.
You've gone through a moustache period yourself. It suited you very well.
Yeah, thank you.
You wore it with longer hair than Samuel does.
True.
And we also very briefly see Hemmer.
Getting beamed aboard.
Aboard, the Enar chief engineer.
Yes. He buys it later, doesn't he?
He does it, unfortunately. A great loss, because this is also like one of the first times that a person with a disability has been cast for a regular. Like he's legally blind. He's not capital B blind there.
No.
He has...
bad enough that it's like counts as legally blind, yes.
But, what's our mission?
We explore. We seek out new life. And new civilizations.
To go where no one has gone before. And Uhura is like,
cool.
Sorry.
I love Uhura. I'm so Uhura. Because, it is. In the words of Sylvia Tilly, it's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I was expecting that you'd sort of tug me back from the brink. I really wasn't expecting to be brought back with such a fundamental realization that even though I don't support Pike's approach, but I do now actually have hope that I didn't before for the people of Kylie.
Well,
thank you.
It's the joy in every episode. even when they have to like dig for it. And there's a lot of in this episode to be joyful about. So, do you have a missing scene?
Oh, a deleted scene. Let me see. Ooh, I've got to think about it. Kay, you got to buy me some time.
All right.
Do you have yours?
Oh, not.
Okay, well, I buy you some time.
Yes. All right. Oh.
No, I thought I had one. I don't. Kay, back to you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see. Is there like? Oh no, they would already know that.
Oh, the Kylians.
Yeah.
On board.
Oh yeah. They
what happened to them?
Over. Yes.
Like, one of them has actually been running around and, like, talked about tag ball. So the deleted scene that I want is him being interviewed on Space Breitbart.
Right, yes.
On a Kylian, like, splinter group.
What does it look like? Yes, what happened to you? Like, you were abducted by aliens and...
The real aliens this time. Like,
were you probed?
Friend or foe? And he's just sitting there in tears and like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. But I've made these papier-mâché sort of replicas to sort of express what it was like out there.
Where the probes went.
So show me on this doll.
Right. I think mine would have to be like the newsroom when the moment the Enterprise makes itself visible and known. The newsroom which breaks out in panic. It's like, wait, is that a spaceship? It's like, oh, wait.
What in the hell?
What is going on here?
Scrap everything.
It's like this Independence Day-esque scene of the Enterprise just like menacingly hanging over the Parliament building. And
oh, God, yes. And the number of people who must have, like, died from crushing as they were rushing into security bunkers.
Oh, oof, yes. Well, that's...
Okay, we had another concept, didn't we? Like, to talk about, like, the people who are the wilds. No. I want to talk about, like, some of the design on here.
Okay.
Because we see those protests that are happening, and they have, like, presumably, like, writing in a Kylian language on them, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But I saw some production design sketches for, like, the costumes worn by people playing Kylian protesters.
Yeah.
And they have, like, photos of the Prime Minister woman with, like, glowing eyes or, like, blood coming out of her mouth, like, printed on their actual jackets and stuff.
Wow.
Like, really, really cool.
I guess that's like you print yourself your, like, protesting jacket and then you go out and, like,
and it made me think of, like,
in that.
Maybe there were
maybe that's actually a defense mechanism. Maybe you're not allowed to deface the Prime Minister's face. So if you like wear the Prime Minister's face on your clothing, the cops can't beat you because then they would like be hitting the Prime Minister.
That's what I was thinking. Or like they're forbidden from the imagery on their placards. Yeah.
But yes, you can't like ban clothing. Oh yeah, that's a cool idea.
You've genuinely redeemed this episode for me.
Well, I'm glad I could for you.
It's not going to stop me from pretending that Star Strange New Worlds is my least favorite.
No,
because they're just too sexy.
Yes,
the hair's too good, and the ships are too well designed.
And I think with that, I'm leaving Starfleet.
Energize.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode with your friends Kay and Kaki. Production and editing by your chief engineer Greg, and music by Fox Amore. Join us next time for The Next Generation, Season 5, Episode 20, Cost of Living. Visit joyoftrek.com/links to send us your recommendations, support us on Patreon, or to find us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to The Joy of Trek, and we'll see you out there.